Imagine a night in Alaska. Snow crunches underfoot, and the wind howls as if warning of trouble. Then, in that silence, a rumor appears and starts gathering details by the minute. A family that became a legend is coming back. But not to show another hunt or cabin build. No, the plot awaiting them is much darker. Alaskan Bush People. Do you still remember that name? For some, it's a symbol of grit and unity. For others, a story of staging and deceit. But the question tormenting everyone now is simple. What became of them after the cameras switched off? Why did some cast members surface in the news with criminal headlines? Why did others leave too soon, and far too tragically? Why did a show that promised the truth about survival turn into a chain of chilling dramas? We know only this. If we keep watching, the pieces start to fit. And the answer may be scarier than the forest where they once lived. When Discovery launched Alaskan Bush People on May 6, 2014, viewers were stunned. A family of 9 walks away from civilization to build a life in the wild. They fished, hunted, and lived in a homemade cabin. Their world looked harsh but honest, a legend of freedom and resilience. But with each season, cracks began to show. Coincidences that felt too neat, conflicts cut too perfectly, storms that miraculously aligned with the shooting schedule. Viewers began to ask, what if this isn't the whole truth? What if, where we see pure reality, there's actually scripting, scandal, and forbidden secrets? The show became a two-faced symbol, an inspiring portrait of survival, and a shadow that hid the price of manufacturing a legend. Billy Brown. He was the patriarch, the voice that said, "We'll make it," the strength holding the family together. Yet his own story began with tragedy. At 16, Billy lost his parents and sister in a plane crash. He was left alone, no inheritance, no future. He made himself a vow: survive at any cost. That vow carried him north. After meeting Ami, he built a family and became the show's center. To viewers, he was a chief. To himself, a man haunted by the past. His heart weakened year after year. Doctors begged him to leave the mountains. Billy answered, "I'll die where I lived." And that's what happened. On February 7, 2021, he died of a heart attack at 68. With his death came a new wave of questions. Why did he refuse the doctor's advice? Did producers look the other way for ratings? And the most important, if the patriarch is gone, can the family stand without him? His passing wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a warning. From that point, the show shifted from a story of survival to a story of unraveling. Bear Brown was always the king of extreme. He leapt into icy water, climbed trees, battled storms like it was a game. His energy electrified viewers. He seemed fearless. But the higher he climbed, the longer his shadow grew. In 2018, Bear met Raven Adams and they had a son. Viewers saw a new side, an image of a father ready to step up. But behind it lay something else. In 2022, the news hit and fans gasped. An arrest, a domestic violence charge, booking photos, media reports. Yes, he was released a few days later. Yes, he made a deal with prosecutors. But the image of the fearless hero was shattered. Can you trust a man who taught us to fight for life if he lost the fight inside his own home? She wasn't at the center of the show. Amy's niece, Amber Nicole Branson, appeared only in passing. But her name became a symbol of a tragedy that pierced the clan. Kind, generous, but fragile, she struggled with mental health issues and addiction. In 2021, her story ended in horror. A fire at her home in Texas. She died of her burns. She was only 45. The questions wouldn't stop. Why didn't anyone put a stop to it? Why wasn't a brewing tragedy prevented? Amber's death wasn't only the family's private grief. It was a warning sign. Can a world where every step is lit by cameras ever be safe for those inside it? Joshua, Bam Bam, was different. Less hungry for the spotlight, more into tech and machines. He seemed the bridge between the wild and civilization. But he landed in the center of one of the biggest scandals. In 2014, his name, along with his father's, surfaced in a case over Alaska Permanent Fund dividend payments, accusations of illegally receiving them, a trial, a guilty plea, sentence, fines, community service, and 30 days in jail. How could it be? The very people who denounced everything urban and systemic on screen, in real life, used the system itself. After that, Bam Bam disappeared. He left the show, moved out on his own, and almost stopped appearing in public. Rain Brown always seemed like a ray of light, a little girl with eyes brighter than the campfire, playing with puppies and picking berries. But time is ruthless. Innocence cannot live forever under spotlights. 2024 brought a turn no one expected. An arrest, a theft charge, gold, firearms, rare wine, cash. Total value, over $75,000. Rain's name appeared beside the word crime. She insisted she was innocent. Lawyers spoke of a misunderstanding. The investigation didn't relent. And the sharpest question rose: how did a girl from the woods end up in police reports? What happened? Was it an accident, a fatal mistake, or the inevitable result of living under relentless cameras? After Rain's arrest, silence fell on the family like a snowstorm. No official statement from the Browns, not a word. And that silence felt scarier than any confession. Fans wrote, "Why are they hiding? What else are they keeping from us?" It seemed each new day brought new rumors. Some claimed the family had finally shattered. Others whispered about a dramatic TV comeback. Reality was different. The Browns themselves didn't know how to escape the trap. Conflicts in big families rarely sound like in the movies, loud, flashy, with plates shattering in slow motion. Real conflicts are like river ice breaking, the crack barely audible, but the pressure enough to snap old bridges. Trust cracked first. Yesterday's allies started tracking each other's posts to see who stood with whom. In family photos, eyes drifted in different directions. Where there had been a ready shoulder, a new wariness. Are you with us or with yourself? One brother, the tech-minded, preached digital hygiene. Delete anything that can be twisted. Another, impulsive, fired back. Delete and you admit guilt. Every choice felt like a loss. A third kept quiet, trying on the role of arbiter, while boiling inside. He had grievances for both. Old resentments, sharp words, that one incident they had sworn never to mention. Old plot lines bobbed up like things rising from a lake bed in spring. Once, a brother slipped off the roof of an unfinished shed. Another laughed and turned on the camera. Watch, this will make the episode. Back then, it became a great scene. Now it's an accusation. You filmed my pain for content. The reply, and you sold our outboard motor without asking anyone. Ledgers years long suddenly mattered again. The sisters tried to build bridges. One messaged everyone separately, asked about their health, reminded them of a niece's birthday. Another invited them to dinner, promising no talk of court or the press. But dinner ended in tears, because not talking meant feeding the silence. And silence in this family had already turned into an accusation. Somewhere between the kitchen and the garage, between winter tires and boxes of old cassettes, the air hung so tight you'd swear a fluorescent tube was about to pop. One wrong move and the snowpack would give way, an avalanche you couldn't stop. Inside each was a private monologue. One feared the next headline would destroy his new life. Another hated that his name now Googled not with strong, but with troubled. A third was angry at himself for weakness.
He had promised never to become what their father was at his worst, and yet he repeated the pattern, as all do who grow up near a powerful shadow. The words betrayed and covered for were spoken too often here. Each side was sure it was right, They didn't want to destroy one another. They wanted to protect themselves. But in stories like this, self-protection is exactly what destroys the last threads holding people together. Hope for a peace council didn't last. They set the table modestly, not to look rich on a phone camera. Sat as they could, one on the edge of a stool, one leaning against a wall. For 5 minutes, they talked about fishing and the late freeze-up this year. At minute 7, someone mentioned that somebody had leaked details of a talk with the attorney. At minute 10, one brother stood and left without slamming the door. From that evening, the family split into 2 camps, not by seniority or preference, by fear. Some feared the press, others the law. Both feared the future. Division begins quietly. First, you stop tagging your brother in posts. Then you don't invite him fishing. Then you think, maybe it's good he's farther away, less noise. One day, you notice it's quieter without him, but empty. At midnight, one brother texted, "I won't let our name drown." The reply, "Are you sure you're not the one sinking us?" It became clear. The war had started, though no one declared it. Who will act first? And what price will the family pay? The news didn't come as a formal statement or a report. It seeped like water through a crack. An anonymous account, a clipped message. Found, no names, looks like crew. At first, no one believed it. Then, cautious outlets ran a short paragraph. The body of a man who previously worked with the TV production has been found. Circumstances under review. No surname, only the cloudy phrase, unnatural circumstances. In the comments, the tally began at once. Which former might this be? Who hadn't been in touch? Who had feuds? Who lost a case? The human brain cannot bear voids and fills in the missing fragments, often worse than reality. For the family, the news echoed the past. People who make shows often stay off camera. Engineers, laborers, drivers. Solitary, taciturn. They did their job. They didn't seek fame. But losses like these cut deeper. They remind us that every pretty picture sits on someone else's invisible exhaustion. That night, snow fell in big flakes. 2 patrol cars stood at the town's edge. Cameras logged the time, 02:17. Around then, a window lit up in one house. Someone took a short call, listened in silence, whispered, "Got it," and covered their face with a hand. At dawn, a silhouette peered from behind the curtains. Tracks on the porch led to a car and back. The door cracked open for a minute, and silence again. In the media space, the conveyor of theories started up. Some spoke of debts, others of an accident, still others of something far from accidental. He knew too much, wrote those who love to line up coincidences like matchsticks on a table. Neat geometry heightens the sense of meaning, even when there is none. Inside the family, another conveyor, memory. One recalled how the dead man once stayed at the base all night to fix a wind turbine coupling, or there'll be trouble in the morning. Another remembered his laugh when a wave swamped the boat and he clenched the camera in his teeth rather than lose the shot. Another, a few rough words for no reason, because tired people are sometimes harsh when their heads ache and their hands are frozen. All of that together was a man. On day 2, another word appeared, investigation. It tolls like a bell. It gathers everyone the word touches. And in stories like this, that's almost everyone. Police questions, sharp, direct, sometimes misplaced. Journalists, more polite, but more numerous. Fans, endless. Did you talk this month? Did he complain to anyone? Did you give him work? And slowly fear thickened in the air.
Not the fear of will be blamed, something else. If it happened to him, it could happen to any of us. People who felt invisible yesterday started fearing their own shadows. By the evening of the third day, one brother said what no one wanted to hear. If this is up to us, we'll have to say more than we can. He meant the press, fans, curious neighbors hungry for behind the scenes. But the words rang wider, as if it was time to unbolt what had been hidden for years under the latch of family business. Death became a prophecy because it returned the central question of this story. What is the price of silence? And can you buy your way out with a truth that wounds everyone? In the comments under the next news item, someone wrote, "I don't believe it. If it mattered, the network would air a special." Another replied, "What if silence matters more?" One of the most debated elements of the show, the nights the family spent in homemade shacks with wind whistling through the walls. On screen, it looked heroic. The fire dying, kids under skins, a roof ripping off in the gale. Off camera, questions crept in. Did they truly stay there all those nights? Or were some scenes enhanced for the lens? Too many coincidences. Crews were always on hand at the tensest moments. Cameras rolled exactly when someone was shaking from cold. Storms became the show's signature. Each storm an ordeal, a looming catastrophe. Houses toppled, roofs flew, boats tore loose. Then strange patterns emerged. Storm dates suspiciously matched filming schedules. And every time the on-screen drama peaked. Some sources claimed storms were used as plot markers. If tension was needed, bad weather suddenly arrived. Was that true? Or a carefully calculated trick? And most of all, if the footage was staged, how real was their survival? One of the loudest real-world scandals had nothing to do with hunting or building cabins, but with money. In 2014, it came to light that members of the family had received Alaska Permanent Fund dividend payments without qualifying for them. For Alaskans, the fund is sacred, a piece of identity. Then, the surname Brown appears in official paperwork. Fraud charges, a trial, guilty pleas, fines, community service, jail time. The cabins built in the woods have fallen in. The trails they walked have grown over, but the memories remain. Millions still re-watch footage from the early seasons, and everyone finds something of their own. For some, it's a story of strength. For others, a symbol of deceit. But no one can forget. Because Alaskan Bush People became more than a show. It became a mirror. In it, we saw our fears, our hunger for truth, and our willingness to believe in legends. And even when a legend collapses, the imprint it leaves is forever.